Speak to Emanuel Yi Pastreich, who is director at the Asia Institute. Emanuel, welcome to the program. First of all, just focusing on Washington's great allies in the region, South Korea and Japan. Does that alliance, from the Asian nations' point of view, put on them some kind of responsibility to act as Washington might act in case China attacks Taiwan?
Well, I think neither Japan nor South Korea wants a war. Both countries have very close economic ties and cultural ties with China. However, the close integration between the militaries and also other long-term political ties to the United States puts them in a very difficult position, both countries. I think that there are some differences, obviously, between Japan, which had an empire and which is a larger scale economy and better integrated with the United States and with Europe, and South Korea, which has a much closer integration with China and with Central Asia, which makes it more hesitant to get into a serious confrontation with Beijing.
In terms of Beijing's actions across the South China Sea, it's building of fake islands, what's been happening recently across the Taiwan Strait. How does that tally with Beijing's insistence? Xi Jinping says it himself. He says, don't be concerned about us. We don't want to conquer the world. We're not imperialists. We're not going to be the new colonialists. Why does he say that and then act in another way?
Right. Well, it's not my purpose to defend Chinese policies. I certainly would prefer for China to reduce its military spending. However, overall, China hasn't had a foreign war since a conflict with Vietnam in the 1970s, and has really only one overseas base, which is not even used all that much. So the rhetoric to say that China is expanding is simply counterfactual. China does not pose that sort of a threat, but it could pose that sort of a threat if it felt that there was an effort to encircle it, and especially on the issue just brought up of semiconductors, to try and cut China out of cutting-edge semiconductor research.
Emanuel, regarding the great antagonism that's taking place right now at this very minute between Washington and Moscow because of what's happening in Ukraine, do you see Beijing and Moscow coming closer together specifically because they believe that together they will be successful in challenging U.S. hegemony?
Well, I think there are obviously some points on which Moscow and Beijing are coming together by default. That's not necessarily because they wanted it that way, but because the stance taken by the United States and especially NATO has been so threatening. However, the geopolitical interests of Russia and China do not align in many respects, and each country is the center of the world for themselves. So I think there are ultimately limits to what we can expect for coordination between Russia and China. That said, there's also on the American side and on the European side serious weaknesses in terms of technology, in terms of the economy, that could also create a sort of a power vacuum, which would make the future of China and Russia relations and geopolitical relations unpredictable.
Emanuel Yi Pastreich, always a pleasure. Thank you, Emanuel.